Love those facades.
Love this cafe that they're ruining.
You just try to go there for a coffee, it's just destroyed every single time. Green Leaves attacking first though, just going to lean in to the Sombra 1-2-3.
And by the way, for Cyclone coupling, you probably aren't going to be leading into Widowmaker until point B anyway, so this initial defense, let's see how much time they can really shave off that clock, and for both the Sombras as well on top of their EMP timings.
I think Lee Chang-soon and TOT will have a bit of work cut out for them though. Cyclone coupling can just kind of start muscling their, or sorry, Green Leaves rather can start muscling their way onto the point, and this is kind of the effect of that. Good anti-heal though onto some key members, and Lee Chang-soon is poised to take advantage of it. So Cyclone coupling create a good situation for themselves to get a pick, but with the trade now, Green Leaves can just wait for Cloud, then come back in.
That's the thing, can we see a counter trade? Maybe TOT was looking for a member on the back line, but Green Leaves are now consolidated together.
And Lee Chang-soon has had to make the swap onto Brigida. They know that they actually won't be able to get much out of these double flankers, and Cyclone coupling are having to pull back to the cafe.
Well, Nano Boost being available, putting that onto Fallen will be a pretty big deal. This will slow Green Leaves down quite considerably. EMP nearly online though.
Getting Slip does slow Fallen down again. Sleep on Fallen rather gets charged away.
Primal
does get to pop Primal though, and Sonaro took a lot of damage, but they're keeping a lid on Fallen. He's barely had a chance to play Overwatch. Now the Shatter comes out. They've already managed to pick up a kill before Fallen even went down, so the rest of this for Green Leaves should just be them cleaning up.
Speaking of keeping a lid on, 50 got TOT down while he was on 99%, and 50 still has the EMP that he didn't have to use. You have a case where, okay, Fallen didn't get to do much either. This is now going to be Lee Chang-soon's POV from the earlier pick he got before he eventually goes down himself.
So this was nicely done. That was right at the start onto Cloud, and then he couldn't retreat back through the entire team of Green Leaves, and that actually ended up being the trade that ultimately favored Green Leaves.
And Green Leaves get to walk through this point now with a lot more ultimates in hand. Sonaro obviously used his Earth Shatter already, but Fallen isn't quite playing the Ryan just yet. Doesn't want to match that one. For Green Leaves, the Nano is going to be big. They have a sound barrier versus the EMP, but Cyclone coupling have no defense.
That's the EMP though out of TOT. Scenario goes down way too quickly. Green Leaves immediately just start pulling straight back anyway. They haven't quite got a counter trade. They can just wait for Scenario though if they don't lose any more members, because they did sleep Fallen. It buys them time.
I think Scenario was caught inside a shield from Cyclone coupling, so the sound barrier was blocked and managed to reach him.
Green Leaves committed a grab there, which is a little unfortunate because they didn't have Scenario back yet. They didn't have any other members who could really follow up on it. So that's just one ultimate less now. They are relying on the EMP more than ever before.
They're still waiting to see if the Nano Boost on Scenarios can get some work done. He's nearly on another Earth Shatter as well. Seeing that hasn't won them just yet, the EMP should be coming through.
Ooh, 50 does just go sky high. Now commits it. Fallen already down beforehand as well, which means this will get the mileage it needs. And also with 50 dead, sorry, with Fallen dead beforehand, Recall knew better than to try and commit the sound barrier into what was still probably a losing play. But Green Leaves committed so much into that fight.
It does also mean now Cyclone Company got to lose a decent amount of space. A hack onto Recall probably means his death as well, so that's further staggers. He actually stays alive.
That's incredible, but he's still way cut off from his team. This is becoming a bit of a wild goose chase for the backline of Green Leaves, and Recall does not give them the slip, so it ends up costing Cyclone Coupling even more time. Green Leaves can just press the main chunk of the fight now.
Shannon's going to be on a few people here, including Fallen, but he's saved by the Nano Boost.
It's a pretty decent pickup though into Lee Chang-soon and MG, so Green Leaves are going to be able to keep a lot of momentum throughout B here.
And now you see TOT nearly on that EMP, but he needs members, he needs teammates. Recall still has the sound barrier. You'd like to think it is still contestable for B.
They don't quite want to dive onto it, so Green Leaves able to get through the chunk of that. Makes up for a bit of the time they did lose on A as well, so now 4 minutes coming through here. Looking to get the early pick on a Fallen. Nice wrap around here from 50 to help get the extra damage, and now just barreling forward is Sonairo. As stalling the cart though, TOT finds Cloud as well in the solo kill, so Green Leaves, look, they get a lot of kills, but they actually don't gain anything much for it.
Well, Green Leaves had a great start there where, okay, Cyclone Company don't get a clean reset, they don't get to have a position where they can begin to look for the next fight. However, heads up playing coming through from TOT, as you mentioned, stalling that objective such that there is no gain of Green Leaves getting that good start. Now Cyclone Coupling should be able to really anchor in somewhere, get this defensive setup and find their engagement.
They've got an EMP to lean on for it. Xerafi does not quite have that sound barrier. It's going to be grab out from 10 though early. It's already TOT down. That is absolutely devastating. That was the central piece of Cyclone coupling, beginning this defense. You EMP, you charge up other ultimates. Now they're going to be on panic mode as the cart reaches the terminus.
And that was the winnable fight for them, because now you go into an engagement where you do have an EMP, but into the sound barrier coming up for Xerafi. So Green Leaves very well set up to complete the cap.
TOT's got to make this one count. It's now or never, really. He's held on to it for long enough, and if 50 gets the drop on him, then it gets even worse. And Xerafi's expecting it. He's hanging back. Back on Sonairo.
Very defensive plays here. Green Leaves just buying space. They're wanting to fall back slightly as the Nano Boost plus Rally was used by Cyclone coupling. So, okay, absorb those two ultimates. Look for the timing now to re-enter. Xerafi still available to counter.
There goes. Ooh, Xerafi just barely on the edge of that EMP. Not the plan there, but Recall gets his own off, but haven't got the kills to back it up, so Green Leaves still kind of steer through that one. Sonairo got a nice early pick, got a follow-up one as well, the old double freight train there with the right house. Huge biotic grenade into the grab as well from MG, but Cyclone coupling without Fallen is struggling to damage to follow up on it. Green Leaves still ahead in this fight. Even with the closer respawns for Cyclone coupling, if Green Leaves can keep a lid on these members, and with hacks like that, they certainly can, plus the grab, they are still going to complete the cap with plenty of time to spare.
Sonairo just unchallenged there, got so much damage done. He was responsible for 3 to 4 kills in that final fight. And for Green Leaves, able to still get the sound barrier counter in eventually. He was hacked out for ages, Xerafi that is. But as the sound barrier, as the Earth Shatters rather start to come through, that's when he had the sound barrier to counter the EMPs. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get enough kills or get enough damage done for the side of Cyclone coupling to kind of push them forward on that defense. So we do see a 2:05 time bank, very respectable for the side of Green Leaves, and no big stop-ups. You saw a couple of slow moments on C, maybe like 1 or 2 moments on B where they didn't quite have it going for them, but mostly B was quite smooth. So other than that, very effective offense, and you know the table now kind of set to see if it's going to be Cyclone coupling able to match this. On Volskaya, we had a pretty big time bank lead for the side of Green Leaves that ultimately ended up not being something they could rely on to win. So if we can at least take this as time bank, maybe Cyclone coupling can lean into time bank prowess again.
I do like seeing Green Leaves just kind of falling back onto something a bit bog standard here. Because, look, they already demonstrated earlier in the series their ability to adapt a team comp to a situation. And, I mean, let's be honest, this is one of the more adaptable team comps of the current meta. And Cyclone coupling have also shown they can't really play any hard counters. Not that many hard counters exist, but the best they can really do is lean into the same team comp, and that's where Green Leaves are just outpacing them.
And by the way, not playing the Widowmaker at any of those points there, especially not on B for Cyclone coupling, and they also lost that B point fairly quickly as well. So now coming back out, it's going to be Sombra on both sides, a mirror for both sides. Fallen gets to start onto the Rhine.
Whoa.
First engagement.
Becky took a lot of hurt there, but able to get out, but does give 50 a lot of ult charge already.
Cloud on the Ana. And to really weave in some bio grenades here. Let's see how quickly we can get a nano boost in, which can give you the leg up in the opening engagements. And 50 already on 39, Sonairo on 24. Green Leaves definitely in the lead.
That's a lot of good signs, but there's still a big window before those ultimates finally come up. So
Interception.
Commit to the play. Fired a grenade. Didn't quite get what they needed out of Cloud.
Recall split off though, so he's kind of away from the team as Cyclone Company do take the high ground. Now the opening available for him to rejoin. Big boot offload from Xerafi.
Yeah, and that's just as Recall makes the leap back in as well. So Cyclone Coupling still not quite regrouped, only just doing so now as they come to the point. But Green Leaf taking the higher ground. It does kind of force the issue of the engagement. Recall eats a hack forward. It's going to have to skirt back around the side. Green Leaves do actually get a third as this is all playing out. Sonairo finally starting to muscle his way in for the content. Ooh. Nice pick. And this is, by the way, I wanted to mention Becky has Transcendence. So Cyclone Coupling were already poised well for that fight, all things considered. That's an EMP out from 50, though. This could be where they start to turn it back around. 10 needs to get the damage. He's got a lot of charge. He will find Fallen, but he goes down. This is still anyone's fight, probably Cyclone Couplings with the closer respawn and Becky buying a ton of time for the few members still alive. They are able to complete the cap.
All right, well, that ends up being worth it. He had already had 2 members down. You maybe expected the Transcendence a bit sooner. I know he was hacked out, but as soon as he comes out of it, that's probably an ideal time. Cyclone Coupling with the closer respawns, with the kill lead as well, are going to be able to camp A, and roughly what is one attempt still gets to hold on to 3 ultimates plus 2 coming online soon. And for Green Leaves, that was a fairly big commit, and they're going to need to be able to commit pretty hard on the defense too on this next engagement.
Well, TOT's location was known there. It certainly wasn't going to be a position to commit an EMP anyway. Green Leaves really need this sound barrier.
Big hit.
Don't have it, and Seraphie would have been hacked anyway. Keeping a lid on Sonaro here is very important. He was so critical to Green Leaves' own offense. I like the target prioritization out of Cyclone coupling.
3 kills there for TOT as well. Recall and MG still holding on to their ultimates for the time being. Seraphie looking for that sound barrier still. Double tank ultimates for Green Leaves is pretty big, but they don't quite have the EMP set up to get a free shatter, so they're going to have to work this out the old-fashioned way as the cart does move around to the final section of B, and 50 is on a flank on behind.
This would be a good place to get a favorable fight and a good defense, but oh, that's already 10 down, and that's a very critical ultimate. Sonaro barely staying alive there, took a big chunk, and Recall wants to help them press the advantage again, looking to get Sonaro. Shatter goes out, but
Desperation
can't
Shatter.
do anything with it. It was almost more just to halt the advance. So again, excellent playmaking from Cyclone coupling, excellent target selection. They know their game plan, they're sticking to it.
You can just see the desperate, you can just see almost the panic in Sonaro's eyes there as he's backing away. He's thinking maybe this Earth Shadow will save the day, but it's just a little bit too obvious at that time for Cyclone coupling. Absorbing that one away means one less big ultimate for Green Leaves, and especially as the EMP is about to come online for 50. That would have been the combo. The Cyclone coupling get to walk in nearly on their own EMP, nearly on their own shatter, and that will be the combo.
Some decent bump as well. Recall has started to get a lot of mileage out of that. Shatter out from Fallen, 10 already down. So again, Green Leaves lacking a huge ultimate that you could otherwise hang a fight on. And even with this EMP, even with this grab, Hashimi late to die here, and the cart just keeps moving. So much time still.
Green Leaves are just yet to really put their foot down somewhere. They've really yet to just anchor into position and hold that, reset Cyclone coupling, force them back to spawn, and slow down this objective. But as it stands, Cyclone coupling are looking at a pretty decent time if they can cap here.
Now this is where 50 is going for a very long wraparound, but the front of Green Leaves need to be careful not to die while he's setting it up.
Got to get 10 down.
TOT is able to commit his in that time, but they do finish off Recall. That's a nice one. So unfortunately, that play not quite working out there for Cyclone coupling. They jumped the gun a little bit, I dare say. TOT going in for an EMP that didn't really do much, and what's worked so well for Cyclone coupling, taking the main chunk of the fight while 50 is setting up, this time does not pay off. Green Leaves are ready for it.
Cyclone coupling, they spend all their bullets there. They shoot nothing, unfortunately. Nothing gets hit. Green Leaves, they absorb all the pressure of the EMP. 10 gets reasonably low, doesn't get taken down, and now a big bunch of ultimates available for Green Leaves to really begin this defense in the final stages. 2 minutes and 4 remaining.
Oh, 50 needs to be careful here, but Sonaro's able to put on some forward pressure to keep the pressure off 50, who is quite behind an ultimate charge, by the way.
You're seeing now MG, the Graviton Surge has to do a lot, while Seraphie does not quite have a sound barrier that can still be a game-winning play. Sonaro now, with the shatter goes in.
It's a really big sleep onto TOT. The grab actually comes out from MG first. They found 2 kills, and the 10's own. Too late, doesn't get anything done. Fallen throws out a shatter, gets nothing. Sorry, Sonaro's shatter. I mean, Fallen commits his as well, but Sonaro's got nothing done, and it needed to get something done. And he was channeling that instead of hitting things stuck in 10's grabs. So heads up play by MG to throw that grab out at a critical moment just when nobody was able to react to it. And they get a few kills, able to push it over the line in what ends up being the slightly favorable time back.
Super anticlimactic as well for Green Leaves in terms of, okay, you look at how they were holding, they had a decent reset forced against Cyclone coupling. This is where you start to believe. This is now the real defense beginning for them. They have ultimate advantage as well. But like you mentioned, the first grab from MG doing so much more, 10 running into that own grab, using then his one. Not enough members alive for Green Leaves, not enough damage input. Himself going down super quick while he's using the ultimate. All falls apart quite quickly for Green Leaves there, and doesn't give them a lot of result in what would have probably been the fight you expected them to get a lot more time off. If it was going to be eventually Cyclone coupling cap, you don't expect this to be 227 for them in the lead.
And that all started with a sleep and a kill onto TOT, who was about 30% ahead of 50 in EMP charge. So it seemed like everything was going so right for Green Leaves until suddenly it wasn't.
I will say, in terms of the overall pace of B and C, there were a lot of lost fights for Greenleaves there. They only really got that one reset on Cyclone Coupling towards the end of C, and after that, I mean, Cyclone Coupling came back very strong. So in this very minor lead, it's about, you'd say, a 20% lead in terms of time. What can Cyclone Coupling do? And like you said, early sleep on MG.
He's able to jet away to safety, but still some positioning for Greenleaves as Cyclone Coupling did it to come out to rescue MG.
TOT also bionated means he just backs off for the time being. He's going to lose a bit of pressure on the front lines. And Greenleaves now easy rotation on the high ground. Perhaps Recall can do something about this, maybe push somebody off like he did last time.
For it. This is nice for Greenleaves as well. They don't have too much time to work with, so getting an early rotation definitely helps them. I don't know that the bump from Recall really did much there. Greenleaves were already gearing up to move back to the low ground anyway. 10 low though.
Didn't actually bump anybody off, and 10 is going to be secured, which is a pretty big opening for Cyclone Coupling.
Too sure what 10 was off doing in the cafe anyway. The rest of the team was hovering around the entrance to the security room, so...
Well, the thing is, I mean, Greenleaves had the actual point control for a little while. 10 got the off angle as Zarya, which is nice to get the extra damage in, but as the rest of Greenleaves starts to back out because they're losing HP, 10's caught out by himself because he's still on the flank. And now you're looking at under 60 seconds. That first minute disappeared so fast. TOT sitting on the EMP. No defense for Greenleaves just yet. Just a nano boost from Cloud.
And look, Greenleaves are closer to some other ultimates, but Cyclone Coupling are just ahead of the curve on the critical ones. And having ultimates first really helps, especially with there's only 40 seconds to go. Early transcendence for Becky, maybe not so necessary, but they want to finish off Sonaro, who unfortunately gets cut off from his team. Now Greenleaves have to commit to the fight. They've only got 30 seconds. They don't want to wait for a reset, but they've already lost Sonaro. They get nothing done while the sound barrier is running, and now 10 goes down. Greenleaves look like a chicken with its head cut off, running around absolutely mad. They look like they don't know what they're doing. They just threw out an Earth Shadow. What is going on?
And they got to reset fast, but they're actually going to go for this right now. 4-man EMP from 50, a kill onto Fallen. This fight's starting to look much better.
They may have just found something to kind of push back in on, but man, that was absolutely mad from Greenleaves to start with. Even now, only just coming to the point. Still a sound barrier for Recall, potentially a transcendence for Becky. So Greenleaves do still have to get a lot of kills, do still have to get a lot of work done. Another EMP out from TOT.
They kill 10.
10 goes down. No one can do anything about it on Greenleaves, not even a rally. Oshimi finally unhacked and instantly goes down, and Greenleaves utterly lost on the attack.
It's not going to be a single tick from them as all their members going to get routed here. The final ones sent back to spawn and self-destruct in celebration from MG, knowing that they've completed this hold onto A, and now the best possible result for Greenleaves is going to be this draw coming in. That is if they can complete a full hold of their own on A, not a single tick allowed to be given away to the opposition. And big setup here, Cyclone Coupling. This game now definitely within their hands. This map should be a win for them unless something goes horribly wrong.
I mean, we just saw things go horribly wrong, only it was for the likes of Greenleaves. I mean, look, I don't even think they would have got this opportunity if it hadn't been for the fact that Fallen looks to go forward to get more kills, and he got punished for it. And that still wasn't actually enough in the end. Like, Greenleaves still did not win this fight, and that's absolutely so nuts. And there were so many moments there where Greenleaves kind of bungled some retreats and played really sloppy. Seemed like they didn't know what to do.
They unfortunately got EMP later. They turned a 6v4 into, you know, a 5v4 pretty quickly when they lost a member. And then as it's in the overtime, you got long respawns. You don't have any ultimates online. Sadly for them, the other side did have ultimates. Cyclone Coupling was still sitting on sound barrier plus EMP, both of which got used a little later into that fight, which secured it for them. And Greenleaves now talked about a perfect defense. Has to be that. The good news for them is there's still not a lot of time for Cyclone Coupling, so the possibility of a draw is still very real.
The unfortunate reality in that is Cyclone Coupling did get their original A cap in one push, so it is still on Greenleaves to step up here.
Big damage, by the way, from Cloud.
Yeah, it does keep a lid on TOT. For a moment, he will be healed up, able to get back into the fight.
And there is enough time that ultimates will be quite relevant. In fact, EMPs should be charged up, but how many engagements will that take? Cyclone Coupling take a bit of a slow approach in terms of how they want to rotate on to this point so far. They know that Greenleaves have been playing quite aggressive in terms of intercepting rotations, and losing TOT's pretty nasty.
Yeah, it's
5-man Bionade.
That is exceptional. I think that might have just been bounced off the wall. So They drop down, press onto that, and they're going to be rewarded with a massive run of kills here. Should even get MG on this retreat. Recall ends up being the only member to slip away alive. That gives Greenleaves a critical amount of ultimate charge. 5
out of 6 members of Cyclone Coupling went down there. We talk about something needing to go very critically wrong for Cyclone Coupling. Well, that might be it. That may be the beginning of this draw scenario being a reality for Greenleaves as they collect so many kills, so much damage that they will be getting these ultimates fairly soon. And Cyclone Coupling have no defense. They have nothing to deal with this.
You got the nano boost. You're going to have an EMP. You'll have a shatter as well. They commit the nano boost first. So 1 for 1, but Scenario able to get a buy strike onto Recall that absolutely demolishes him. And again, just pressing the advantage onto Cyclone Coupling, who tried to make a very fast rotation and aggressive play. Greenleaves are more than equipped to match that right now. Late death on Fallen allows plenty of time for the one member of Greenleaves who died to get back.
So the game plan for Cyclone Coupling is, okay, if we have to lose this fight, how many ultimates get used by Greenleaves? Sadly for them, just the one so far. It's just going to be the Nano Burst. After that, Greenleaves still hold on to 3 ultimates coming online. Will be Sound Barrier as well. Cyclone Coupling do have an EMP soon. Do have to wait for TOT to respawn, and this will probably be their last push off of just an EMP into an Earthshatter combo, which, by the way, Greenleaves also has. One team will decide this game.
They may have just enough here, Cyclone Coupling, with the Transcendence on Becky. That is the critical one. Commits it early into the Graviton Surge. 50 able to commit this EMP, but
kills are there though.
Yeah, Cyclone Coupling were just quicker to the play, quicker to the EMP, quicker to the rest of the commit. But 10 starts to turn it back around, trades his own life for it. Remember, closer respawns for Cyclone Coupling, only needing to get a third. They lose Cloud. It's all on 50 and Xerafi with the Sound Barrier, but they're stuck in a grab. So Xerafi goes down. 50 has to do it all on his lonesome before anyone comes back. So Nairo does not get there in time. Cyclone Coupling pick it up, take us to match point.
And this is where they get to lean in on that extra 30 seconds worth of time, which is what they pushed in with, by the way. If they didn't have that, that would have been the overtime ticking over far sooner. They would have had to push in far sooner into a lot more ultimates. You can imagine that would have been a very rough fight for Cyclone Coupling to engage in. However, what actually ends up happening is, again, we go back to both teams having very similar ultimates, but it's Cyclone Coupling faster in the trigger pull, this time connecting extremely well. You even mentioned, we saw that Transcendence come through as well. Ends up being a bit of a tempo play. That tempo play lets them stay in far longer to get that kind of positioning, to get their better ults and then land their combos, the same ultimates, which unfortunately doesn't quite get used to the same effect by Greenleaves. 6v4, this time going the way of Cyclone Coupling, a huge lead in terms of player count on that final fight, which is the most important one in terms of it going into overtime and deciding the game.
And look, Greenleaves had a smart idea there. They were trying to put Becky in a no-win situation where either you hang forward with your team, you all end up in the grab and you've still got more tools in the bank, or he hangs back, which is a little bit more, a bit more common, so that you can come in after the fact when the grab's been committed, you know it's there, then you pop the Transcendence in. And 50 was meant to be there to scoop up Becky before that could happen with an EMP or even just a regular hack. And again, like we said, Cyclone Coupling just quicker to the play.
It depends on what you are trying to counter, because if it's just Graviton Surge, you don't care about being caught in that. If it's EMP, then you're trying to hide. So in this case, for a tempo play, for counter out grab, and just making sure your team is stuck in combat and not playing too reactively, that is where, based on time remaining, Cyclone Coupling were very smart in just being on the point, playing for the objective, staying in the game, understanding that based on time, can't afford to be too defensive, can't afford to be too passive, need the high initiative, and it's been the high initiative that's been kind of driving them forward on these maps so far. And now Hollywood is slowly, we looked at Volskaya, it's like that seemed more like a Greenleaves map that they lost. This one was more like you finally have Cyclone Coupling kind of coming into their own, very deserving map win. And now the momentum is definitely on their side. They're looking better and better in the series.
The execution has just been there more often than it's been there for Greenleaves. And more critically, it's been there in the fights where Greenleaves would otherwise come in potentially favored, or worse than that, actually, is the fights where Greenleaves could potentially have a win on their hands and Cyclone Coupling have a sort of narrow path to victory. And they're able to sort of stay on that path, walk the line a little bit there, and just totally out-execute Greenleaves. If that keeps happening, Greenleaves are going to keep losing.
I actually think Greenleaves had the better start too. And you remember that 5-man Bionaire, the first pick into TOT, that's 5 members down, so many ultimates on their side, and you begin to see the start of what will be, what should have been probably their hold if they had continued that momentum forwards. But eventually, Cyclone Coupling just kind of outmaneuvered them. out-damage them in some cases, get those earlier picks, and kind of use their ultimates in a slightly better way, which now brings us over to map number 4. 2-1 lead so far for Cyclone Coupling. Map number 4 is going to be played on Escorts. Let's go ahead and check that out.
Welcome to Watchpoint Gibraltar. This is Escort. 2 teams face off as either defenders or attackers. This is the payload. The attacking team has a limited amount of time to escort the payload along a set path containing 3 checkpoints. The payload only moves forward when an attacker stands near it. Defenders can delay the payload's movement by standing nearby at the same time. To get moving again, attackers must clear away the defenders by force. Every time the payload reaches a checkpoint, the attackers score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. If even one attacker is near the payload when the clock runs out, the game enters overtime. This extends play indefinitely until the attackers are either cleared off the payload or they gain more time by reaching a checkpoint. The round ends when the payload reaches the destination or when time runs out. Teams switch sides each round. Whichever team scores the most points and escorts the payload farthest wins.
On map number 4, back to Don Rombotico in Havana for this one. Green Leaves now. We need to bring things back if we want to go to Nepal and a map 5. And we entered the series saying it felt like Green Leaves were favored, felt like Cyclone Coupling as the 0-3 team. The team with a lot more questions hanging over their heads should be the underdogs. However, turning that story now around 2-1 match point.
And I'm a little bit nervous for Green Leaves here, I have to say, because I want to highlight what happened for the majority of the payload section on their defense on Hollywood. As in, there was none. They barely defended. They were barely able to get fights. The tempo plays were just so good from Cyclone Coupling. And, I mean, now there is no static point. And even then, on their initial defense, they lost the static point of Hollywood in the first push from Cyclone Coupling. So, like, they have so much that they need to turn around on that defense, especially even if all Cyclone Coupling gets is 1 or 2 good defenses where Green Leaves don't get any. That's more than enough to edge out on a map like Havana where finishing is hard enough as it is.
And I want to really highlight the 2 DPS members of Cyclone Coupling as well. TOT, first of all, for how effective he is in getting his damage done at Sombra. You can see the amount of final blows he actually gets on Sombra. Shows up at the kill feed a lot. Gets a decent amount of EMPs in there. His EMP connections have been decent. They haven't been, I would say, pretty 50-50 as well in terms of how both Sombras have been playing. But he's always quite present. He's always in annoying positions, getting great manual hacks and just being a nuisance, and that's very important to see. On the other hand, you also have Lee Chang-soon, who, when we've seen him on Widow, we've seen him on Tracer, has been pretty impactful as well. Going on to Havana, I think both of those picks can be pretty big. Whether you play the Sombra or the Widow or both, either or, both of those should be pretty good for Cyclone Coupling and will need to be matched in some way by Green Leaves.
We're also seeing TOT leading in ultimate charge, I'd say 9 times out of 10, which is another useful thing coming into Escort. It just sort of help keeps your tempo and momentum, especially when you're attacking. If you get an EMP, and especially if you commit it a little bit earlier, the other one commits it maybe a bit later in the same fight, doesn't get the same mileage. Like, it's all of these things put together on TOT that's actually creating a lot of very impressive Sombra plays, where by comparison, 50 unfortunately isn't really meeting the mark today.
And I wonder if it's now for Green Leaves time to maybe go back to a standard 3-3 or try something else out. Havana does allow you to have quite a few options, and we saw going on to even earlier also, I mean, teams started out on Bunker. We saw a lot more DPSs in there. Does Green Leaves maybe start to flex onto something else, or are they more set in their ways? They want to give the Sombra Goats another go, because there is a world where I think for Cyclone Coupling right now, being that they're reasonably comfortable at match point, they can keep playing Sombra Goats. We know they're going to be capable on that, and going into a map like Havana, it would be even better for them as a more Sombra-friendly map.
Yeah, you'd like to think so. On the whole, I'm just curious, I suppose. Like, this is a map where we see a lot of potential. What we also see on this map, I find, is whether or not teams can effectively transition from one composition to another as necessary. Because we haven't actually seen either of these teams need to do a whole lot of it. And the few times they have done it, it hasn't often come off all that well. So we'll see if A, whether that's a factor, and B, whether they can actually pull that off. Gosh, so jaunty, that map theme. Just makes me want to get up and shake it.
So I'm sorry, what will you be shaking?
My after workout.
I see.
Because I definitely work out.
And then afterwards,
I shake it.
what we do see here is going to be the Arista Hog start for Cyclone coupling in the bunker with Widowmaker being played once again by Lee Chang-soon Hashimi. This time it's going to have to do a lot of work here, especially since you got Lee Chang-soon hiding behind a shield.
So this is mirror matchup right now, and certainly not the sort you'd expect. By the way, Pocky subbed back in. Welcome back, Pocky.
Pocky on the DV here for Green Leaves, and like you've said, it's going to be same on both sides, but early hook coming through for Cyclone coupling.
This first bit of push for Green Leaves pretty expected, but now that the two teams are in a pitched battle, we'll have to see who kind of gets the better end of most of these. And oh, that's a big hit on Sonaro. Hashimi finds his counterpart though, and Seraphie has the res in a little bit quicker than what Recall does.
Both teams though reset back to 6v6. MG will be demeg, bit of Pocky as well, so I mean,
yep,
both sides losing the same members.
Well, the difference is MG himself didn't actually die, Pocky did, but now there's a trade onto Fallen. Cloud finds TOT and able to top himself off on the payload as well. So Green Leaves do ultimately get the better end of that. That was very back and forth, very evenly traded for a very long time. Remake from MG slows things down, but they'll still get demeched and killed anyway.
It ends up giving away a bunch of HP as well in terms of ultimate charge. So Green Leaves ultimately on the better end of that one. You can now start to see Cloud picking up a decent amount of hooks, hitting himself up to the whole hog, which Becky actually already has. So Cyclone coupling gets to go into the next engagement with a decent amount of ultimates.
Hashimi's also woken up. He's now killed Lee Chang-soon twice in a row. Lee Chang-soon yet to have the same kind of impact. Becky looking for the wraparound play here with the whole hog. Takes a bit of pressure and is just going to back out. Might not be able to retreat to the team at this rate though, in a very tight spot, and ultimately goes down.
He'll be giving away his whole hog there in terms of his life, and now TOT, MG both get to pick up counter trades of their own, which slows down Green Leaves quite considerably.
Yeah, killing Sonaro was nice, but there was definitely going to be a res there, especially when you consider Becky was in an unresable position. But TOT getting an extra kill was just so much value. However, Green Leaves kind of back on the forward momentum now, able to press on in with the ultimates. They're banked up and pressing what is still a numbers advantage. This is a late ultimate from Becky. It gets nothing done. They're now stalling a cart that's already been capped and just giving away tempo kills.
And I'm interested to see how many players will change compositions heading into B, because Bunker is not really the most reliable comp to be playing here. Most teams would rather be playing 3-3. TOT on the Sombra, looking to get that charge through, as we do see Infrasight nearly available for Lee Chang-soon as well.
This does mean 50 still on the Hanzo. May want to consider making the change before too long.
Green Leaves, they do have early positioning on the high ground, which is pretty decent. Early hooking as well.
Forces the self-destruct from MG. Seraphie though, that's a big hook. That's really rough for Green Leaves. They just have to pull back from this high ground now, which means they lose all positioning and they also lose the ability to progress the cart.
Yeah, those are two important kills there coming through. Green Leaves now losing most of their members. They were looking to reset anyway after Seraphie goes down. Now they'll be forced to indeed. TOT at about 49 still needs to get this EMP up fairly quickly. Green Leaves now losing that high ground will find it reasonably difficult to push back in. This is about the time where you'd consider changing comps. However, because you're somewhat committed, based on ultimates, you don't want to be giving up too many ults to change.
Hashimi takes a lot of pressure around the side there, presumably from TOT. One thing that helps them here, Green Leaves is 50 with that Dragon Strike. Oh, nice halt to get the shots onto Lee Chang-soon. Now there is that Dragon Strike. Lee Chang-soon, the invulnerability from the res allows them to stay alive, but what it does do is it forces Cyclone coupling off that high ground and puts them vulnerable. Green Leaves pounce.
Only two left.
And they're able to make the most of it. Very nice passage of play from Green Leaves. Very clear execution on a game plan.
Recall there with the Valkyrie, unfortunately going to be healing nobody as he goes back to spawn himself. Cyclone coupling using this opportunity to change up their composition over to something that fits a little bit better for this B point, because they had a reasonably successful defense already. Minus the kill onto TOT there. Now Cyclone coupling is really in trouble.
97% for TOT when he went down, so that's a huge pick for Hashimi. So Green Leaves also just have more ultimates anyway they can lean into. They could just win this with sheer tempo. They've already found Fallen. Cloud has himself a whole hog if things get dicey on the ground game, but with MG already demaxed and stunned as it happens, so he cannot use self-destruct. This is such a clean firing line for Hashimi onto those healers, and Green Leaves, like I said, just tempo play through there. Didn't even need to use most of the ultimates they had.
3 overall. The Changsu now over onto a Brigida as well. Green Leaves get to push through. Hashimi really setting the pace here. Killing TOT was that one kill that really gets them that point. As Cyclone Company give over so many lives to maybe even just try to find time to contest, and even still going on to see it. First shot coming in. Second nearly got Steamegg.
Hashimi should really pop the Infrasight here. I mean, actually might not again need to just because MG is down. Cyclone Coupling won't commit while he's dead. And as soon as he commits that Infrasight, TOT has to wait to use the EMP.
And by the way, this is not a great place to use EMP because look how split the members of Green Leaves are. Who are you supposed to EMP on this point? Do you go for the card? That's like 2 people. Do you go for the majority of members? Then you're not going for the card. And you still don't have members. You are still waiting consistently for respawn. Somebody is always down.
Tell you what, the shoe is on the other foot right now. Compared to how Hollywood went, Green Leaves just have pick potential out the wazoo, and they are getting so many.
But the good news is, okay, now that the Infrasight is available, I say, this is where you do want to EMP, however.
Oh, not if you're dead. Well, I mean, he did still get it off beforehand, but look, it only got Cloud for one thing, and like I said, Tot dead. Cloud will go down, but can be res. There's quite a few members you might want to res here, though. They actually commit onto Sonairo. Pocky able to reset the mech here. And look, they're still getting kills, so they'll still at least get some cart progression. And again, this is a good firing line for Hashimi.
And they just play the scenario so well. They're really able to get value out of the Widowmaker. Infrasight coming out just when Cyclone Company actually want to use EMP as we close out the final section of this map.
This is now sort of the last push back for Cyclone Coupling, and even so, Green Leaves still keep the pressure on. They've got a Valkyrie now. They've got a whole hog. There's just so much damage.
You see there, MG nearly got DMEC to get Fallen's trying to get something done. Instantly pushed away by that whole hog.
Good DMEC onto Pocky, and now slowing down Cloud here with the stun. So Green Leaves are going to have to take pause from this one.
We'll see if they can shut down Fallen because he's been quite annoying to just push Green Leaves away from this, and as they wait for Pocky to respawn, this will be finally the reset, and a bunch of changes now. Pocky looking like he wants to go onto the Sombra, Zerafi on the Lucio, and a bunch more changes. Hashimi will probably change as well after using the Infrasight just to check.
On the whole, a series of changes I do quite like here for Green Leaves. Cyclone Coupling are still only rebuilding themselves.
What will be a problem is Cyclone Coupling have an EMP, and this is going to be potentially the final engagement. They have to use this soon.
TOT went for the manual hack on Zerafi, but unfortunately Lee Chang soon down. There is the EMP, but Green Leaves just sort of duck and cover. Hashimi does still go down, so good press forward there, and a massive bump from MG.
Now that's great to collect those kills as well. He gets the kill credit and all the ultimate challenge for all members he bumped off who were trying to reset, by the way. So Green Leaves, knowing that they have about 30 seconds remaining, wants to make sure they want to receive the EMP, lose the fight into a dry push, come back with something they can use. Hopefully they've now built up something in terms of ultimates. We can see that it's still far enough away that they might not get it this fight, and it's still going to be quite hard.
Even if they had the EMP, you've got Recall and Becky both sitting on ultimates, so Green Leaves, I mean, if anything, they're in a worse position. I like the self-destruct into a wide open space.
That's probably the push over.
Nowhere to hide, and that's 2 dead with less than 5 seconds to go. No one's even near the cut here. Zerafi ragdolls onto it. Technically, it bought the overtime, but no one's going to be able to do anything with it. Just shy of the cap now is Green Leaves, and for what was such a high momentum push through the majority of B and a big chunk of A, they get completely stumped on the final stretch of C.
And this is where you get the double-edged sword of what they were running into C, because this momentum unfortunately baits you into staying on a composition that is not going to be great for pushing into the final section if you do not actually finish the map where you stand. Because unfortunately for them, once they actually made the swap onto a 3-3 or onto the 3-2-1 in this case, they had no ultimates. They had to reset everything, and that was at 1 minute. At 1 minute remaining, you don't get another round of ultimates unless you're winning fights. If you're winning fights, you probably already camped. So ultimates at this stage kind of becoming a null factor for the side of Green Leaves, and if they wanted to make changes, they probably should have made them sooner. However, at the same time, you can see this engagement, this is where they got so much momentum on C as well. They don't want to change because they got ults coming online, because they have the momentum going. So, like I said, double-edged sword.
And look, I did say, this is A map that tests teams' abilities to change compositions quickly and effectively.
That kill, by the way,
Yeah, that
was the beat cap.
so sick.
If they didn't get that kill, TOT uses the EMP, that would have been the fight, but
I mean, this was also, again, I mentioned it at the time, Hoshimi just kind of got unlocked. For the first time, we really got to see him show what he can do on the Widowmaker, and it was absolutely devastating.
And we talked a lot about Lee Chang-sun and maybe, okay, Green Leaves won't be able to match this. The opposite is in fact true, where Hoshimi more than matches that one, forces Lee Chang-sun off. And now Green Leaves, okay, didn't quite finish the map. However, they did get past B. They did cap most of C. That should be enough to still get enough time to defend and stop Cyclone Coupling from finishing the map.
It's a good compositional read from Green Leaves to be able to go up to take this advanced positioning. They find Lee Chang-sun in this early little scrap, Fallen in trouble. Good sleep. He may or may not get back to spawn at this point. Yeah, he gets the bubble, so he is okay, but Green Leaves, mission accomplished. They start to back out. They've wasted some time.
Yeah, they also see that Cyclone Coupling have all their reinforcements back in. This chase is really important because Green Leaves may lose members here. Pocky's in trouble.
Ooh, Pocky a little bit isolated off to the side. Xerafi as well, but Cloud working overtime, able to keep people up. No, Sonairo goes down. That's so huge. And that's with Nano Boost available as well. If he'd maybe just tapped that a half second earlier, could have saved Sonairo. Instead, Cyclone Coupling get the better end of the play. And look, that is the risk of playing in that position.
And in some cases, if you are going to do that, just commit fully. You can't really afford to back up because you're losing ground. Cyclone Coupling are chasing, they're cleaning up kills as they do so. If Green Leaves are going to lose that fight eventually, lose it on top of the cart, lose it at the gas station, and then reset for the next engagement. Now you have Cyclone Coupling coming up to a bunch of ultimates that Green Leaves don't yet have.
What a gross hack on Sonairo. That's
a best grab.
Yeah, they tried to actually keep Sonairo in so that he would die. He was very low, so that's just one ultimate less. Hack on TOT. Did not see that coming, and suddenly Green Leaves have found something to use for the defense. That's a Transcendence from Becky that may help a retreat here, but it is a retreat, and I don't think Lee Chang-sun is getting out in it.
Green Leaves now doing a decent job surviving against the pressure from Cyclone Coupling, forcing that retreat as well, the reset. And now they will have ultimates. They will have their own EMP. MG, unfortunately, missing that Graviton Surge, not picking up Sonairo. Cyclone Coupling just mis-executing, where Green Leaves now have the opportunity to really collect.
Nice one from Pocky, and you already saw a huge Bio Grenade from Cloud onto the two tanks. 50 gets a ton of cleanup. TOT finding a late one on Pocky is quite nice. They will have to wait for that one to come back, but Green Leaves still, oh wow, never mind that. With the counter trade, they are sitting pretty.
And Pocky was looking for TOT as well, and trading each other is okay. They use the EMP and the Shatter combination on top of landing a Biotic Grenade. That's only 2 ultimates, and they have 4 more in the bank. That is a pretty high value fight for Green Leaves. And now losing a lot of time onto A, Cyclone Coupling need as much as they can to actually finish the map.
This is where they can really kind of make up for how their attack didn't quite come to its conclusion there. Sound Barrier out now on the defense from Recall, and Xerafi chooses to match. They want to make the tempo play with Sonairo pushing forward aggressively. Has another Shatter as well, thanks to the damage you deal during the Nano Boost, plus what he did to the members that were grabbed up. But he's hacked out, taking a lot of pressure and isolated from his team. Going to be hard to set up the Shatter here. Fishes for it and doesn't really get anything done.
No, it misses entirely, sadly, and now Cyclone Coupling have the opportunity. Their next ults are coming online, and they're getting kills.
Yep, Sonairo down. Lee Chang-sun's there in the trade, but you'd rather have kept Sonairo alive. But good catch on TOT. The grab comes out from MG, but not really anyone to follow up on it. Becky does not get there in time to save Fallen. Pocky gets his EMP off now. It only finds a few members, but it's enough, and 1.31 meters is still no cap as Green Leaves find another defense.
That's actually a decent commit from Cyclone Coupling to receive the EMP, because that EMP would rather have been saved for the next engagement, possibly the last one, as Green Leaves now on the defense, 35 seconds remaining to defend. And Green Leaves don't have that EMP, they have a Graviton Surge, still pretty big. Cyclone Coupling is still potentially in trouble if they do not find something here, but nearly EMP Shatter time, that could be the combo that saves them.
They have to wait for it because they don't have a defensive ultimate. If that grab connects, there's also no Diva that can stop it. If 50 lands it well, then it could just be all over. Nice counter Shatter, keeps Sonairo at bay. That would have been most of the damage output. Lee Chang-sun low, but alive critically as the EMP comes out. They unfortunately don't have the Shatter to combo with it, but they don't need it. They've found a good chunk of kills. as the overtime begins, Cyclone Coupling find themselves on the favorable end of a fight for the first time in a while, and they will cap.
However, the long march begins, because this is the point that teams will get stopped up on. This is the point that teams lose all their time. And even if Cyclone Coupling can cap it in overtime, which was likely at this stage 2:30 going into B, is typically not enough to finish B. And Greenleaves still have ultimates. Greenleaves still hold on to a decent amount. There's been no swaps required for either side, and it's been a hard-fought battle for Cyclone Coupling to even make it this far.
That's the reality. Greenleaves are also on a nice composition for this point, as are Cyclone Coupling, arguably.
Sleep in a hack.
TOT, well dead. Recall needs to be careful where he positions, actually.
Fallen couldn't do much there as well. He was the one that was hacked out. TOT was the one that was slept. Big plays by Cloud on this Ana.
He's done that a lot, getting sleeps on TOT.
Good usages, and that's going to secure a pretty easy setup for Greenleaves. Now they get to take the high ground for free. Cyclone Coupling have to rotate the long way around. This is where you want to be watching the Lucio players. If they get bumps off, get members onto the low ground, that will ruin a push, that will ruin a play entirely.
Pocky up on the EMP as well. Cyclone Coupling
Surfy
taking a long rotation here, but to get to the part they eventually have to go to ground. The EMP comes out, but Becky's there with the response. Fallen, though, not quite in it for a brief second, and Sonaro putting on so much forward pressure that Becky's actually struggling to keep people alive rather than cruising them forward into the fight. Nice grab, but Seraphy has the answer to it. Oh, there's a big EMP with Sonaro down at the top of it anyway. They will actually get the cart back under their possession. They're still a little lean for time, though, here, Cyclone Coupling.
And this is where, despite losing Falling quite quickly, Becky saves the rest of the members with the Transcendence long enough that TOT can land his own EMP. Far better connection, far better results in terms of actual kills. And our Greenleaves are hurting for members. They need to respawn quite quickly. But you are right about this time, because this entire fight, the cart was completely held up. It did not move. So as the cart finally gets past this high ground section, which Cyclone Coupling can be quite happy about, they're not too happy about the time remaining.
Becky is on spy checking duty there. By the way, 50 is a grab, but Recall didn't have to use Sound Barrier in that last fight, so Cyclone Coupling do have the tools required here. Grab just kind of gets yeeted into the team here. That's decent, cancels the barrier, but Fallen did still get a nice counter shatter to stop follow-up. Gets jumped on his back though, and he's going to go straight down. Sonaro gets the better end of the shatters. MG down, overtime begins. Overtime going to end pretty soon after, I imagine. Probably just the duration of this Transcendence. And that should be Greenleaves completing their hold on B. They will be bringing us to a tiebreaker.
That is a lonely Zenyatta on the point. Becky's trying to find any teammates to heal back up to contest with. That's just not going to happen, though. This is where you have to really commend now the individual plays from Greenleaves. So clean. Hashimi on the attack, giving so many advantages over to the side of Greenleaves to allow them to cap A, cap B, get most of the way through C, which didn't end up becoming relevant as predicted, because most teams will not get to C. So if you can get any distance on C, you're already in a decent position, even if you don't finish the map. It's not like Hollywood or any other map or a lot of Salt maps where finishing is reasonably expected. Here you can even see on the Greenleaves defense how many plays they had, even towards the end there. I want to see the hack onto the Lucio. I'm forgetting who he was.
Recall.
Onto Recall, that is. New player. Forgive me for that one. Onto Recall, cancelling the sound barrier. So huge. That was the beginning of the end for Cyclone Coupling's push, because losing that ultimate, they're not getting anything in response. Absolute disaster.
I wanted to touch on that as well. Pocky coming in actually for Havana. Look, this is with no disrespect to 10, but it feels like Pocky is getting more out of the Sombra than 50 was, and 50 is getting more out of the Zaya than what 10 was. And I think on the whole, you'll probably find that compositionally running 50 and 10 it's only just occurred to me that those are both numbers, but running the two of them probably gives them more options. But for this particular option, the Zaya and the Sombra, which is close to what they've run when they've gone into more GOATS-oriented compositions, it does feel like they get more mileage out of 50 and Pocky.
On top of that, Cloud did a great job as well, and that was the other difference, because Becky was playing mostly Zen into a Sombra versus Sombra matchup, and Cloud's like, you know what, meta's shifted to playing Ana instead here, and he definitely took advantage. Nice sleeps across the board. Before we head into map 5, we're going to take a little bit of a break, so keep your bums on seats, because this one's getting quite wild. We'll see you right after this. Welcome back once again for Overwatch Contenders Pacific Season 2 here, closing out our first match of the day in a Map 5. Some would say somewhat surprising, but at the same time, it strangely kind of feels right. It feels like this was meant to be. Both teams should be fairly close here.
Yeah.
Cyclone Coupling, a returning team from last season, really tough opening schedule. Feel like this was going to be a winnable game for them. Green Leaves coming in very hot from Trials. First place there, taking down Nova MS, and now very winnable game for them too.
I feel like this is surprising in two ways, right? When you came into this at the very top of it, on balance, you go, yeah, Green Leaves are favored. We might not go to a map 5. You know, maybe it's a 3-1. Well, yeah. We get to the end of Hollywood and you go, okay, this isn't going to go to map 5 because Cyclone Coupling are going to 3-1. They're going to win Havana. That doesn't come to pass. So now it's like two scenarios that seemed like they were the most probable thing at the time did not come to pass. And here we are now at a map 5. But you're dead right. It feels like, in a way, we were always destined to get here because it was in the script.
It was.
In the script from the start. We've been hiding it this whole
And
time.
now I don't want to check the script to see who wins because
No
I
spoilers.
want some excitement to be there.
Don't spoil the
In fact,
game.
I'm not even going to watch this one because I don't want to be spoiled.
Yeah,
I'm just
so
going
that
to
is-
refuse to watch Nepal.
That actually
together.
is how I watched Endgame with sort of like one of those like eye things on that they give you on the aeroplane and earplugs because I didn't want to get spoiled.
Well, that's good. You don't
Someone
know
told me Thanos was in it. Ruined the whole thing for me.
rough. I do also want to say you got a bit of a glimpse of the Ilios score there, 2-0. That is something that kind of looms over the heads of the Cyclone
Avengers.
Coupling
Oh, sorry. Him.
side
Talking
as
about
well.
Overwatch now, huh?
I am. Where, look, Ilios was not necessarily one-sided. You kind of felt towards the end maybe Ruins was a little bit more one-sided, but 2-0 scoreline doesn't speak very well to Cyclone Coupling. Nepal is going to be a different enough map that maybe that's no longer the case. We talked about momentum as well. Momentum was pretty strong going from Hollywood. Hollywood all the way through onto, Volskaya and Hollywood together for Cyclone Coupling. Havana is a bit of a stop in that momentum. You feel like it is still a decent run for Cyclone Coupling so far.
Yeah.
Now both teams go into Nepal looking quite good.
What Cyclone Coupling don't want to get here, this is the other thing hanging over their heads beyond just the scope of having already lost Ilios, is the 3-2 result they had against Global Esports. So they're now looking at they're 0-3 already. That one felt winnable. They don't want to find themselves in another match where they get it to that point. It seems winnable. They end up not winning it, and now they're 0-4.
So by the way, that would be, if that happens, this would be the second time they've lost 2-3. And instead of Global Esports would be the most winningest team in a 3-2. They are good at map 5. Cyclone Company would be the team that loses all the map 5s, the complete opposite. So that wouldn't be the kind of reputation you want to have going through the rest of the season. You're right, 0-4 is what looms ahead of them if this result goes sideways, because that is going to, I would say, considerably ruin their season.
Yeah.
Because you want to start turning things around here. You can still get a positive score, 4-3 if you win here. Otherwise, basically you can do is 3-4.
Yeah, look, if you go 0-4 as well, the season starts to potentially become unrecoverable. Look, we say that 2 wins is all you need to escape relegation. So, like, let's look at the math there. You beat Jupiter, maybe you beat Xavier. Those are the 2 most winnable for you. One of those doesn't go right. Jupiter did pick up a little bit this week, even though they still lost. Xavier could still come back into form in any given week. You drop one of those, suddenly you've dropped too many. It's just not salvageable.
Yeah, Fire Society is up for Cyclone Coupling as well. You'd say, like, everything after Talon and Nova MS
has
kind of winnable for them. So, I mean, door is open for Cyclone Coupling to barge through if they would like, but unfortunately there's a big doorman in the way in the side of Green Leaves.
Hey kid, you got some ID.
Actually, no, right now, no, I don't.
Ah, well, that's unfortunate. I do. ID.
Cloud starting on the Soldier here for the side of Sanctum, maybe expecting a little bit more sky presence, air presence. Cyclone Coupling playing the same composition they had on Well, which is going to be the McCree and the Brigida.
We'll have to see what Cloud can actually accomplish here, because in a pitched battle, the Soldier doesn't do too much. Hashimi going down as well, just too much pressure out of Lee Chang-soon, and Lee Chang-soon should be having a field day here.
And this is because, okay, you got quad DPS on the Green Leaf side. No one can really dive on to Cyclone Coupling's composition because double stuns there. You can see why.
And this is honestly terrifying for Green Leaves. They actually played this into this composition previously with the double flankers and pulled it off well. That was with 50 and 10 though. They keep popping in here and this feels a little bit less clean to start with.
And this is now where for Cyclone Coupling, they did lose their main tank, so Fallen coming back as a Winston, not going to have a shield to hide behind as Hashimi is just trying to be as annoying as possible, landing damage from the sky.
They can get more pressure onto Cloud though, which will help them out. Sonaro goes down to the point, and he was the last thing helping keep it contested, so the cap goes now to Cyclone Coupling. Green Leaves haven't really got counter trades. Pocky eats a stun, is going to go down, and I mean, Green Leaves are not getting anything done.
As long as Cyclone Coupling can get Hashimi really pressured out, you can see the HP bar there. And as soon as they can get this point under control, which currently they do have, and keep Lee Chang-soon alive, they will be able to hold on to this objective. And for Green Leaves, now they're trying to push him with a couple of ultimates in hand. Fallen's well back into play now, Rally in play as well.
It's like, how do you even get mileage out of Hashimi's Rocket Barrage, though? You probably need a combo with an EMP here, and Pocky's still not quite up on that, so what, do you just wait for it? Is it just more time lost?
It's also quite hard to get value out of the tactical visor from Green Leaves, the EMP available for Pocky. Oh, cancelled out, it's huge!
Oh, and Cloud goes down. That is absolutely devastating. And that's why Fallen came back on the Winston. You get extra pressure. I think this is now something Cloud, in spite of having the tactical visor, needs to change off.
You see TOT there, just heads up play. He normally plays a Sombra. He knows where Pocky's going to come from. That's that Dragon Strike.
He's going to have to get a lot of work done. Becky going to pop the Transcendence and charge forward now into Cloud. He's running the attack visor. Fallen just going to absorb all those bullets. Sound barrier as well allows that to survive the entire time. Hashimi dies again before being able to use a Rocket Barrage. Self-destruct from MG helps him to preserve the mech. Hashimi, who just got killed, straight back down. Green Leaves have not accomplished anything.
75%, you're now starting to see some changes here. Sonaro wants to go on to his own Winston. Huge ring of changes, 0 for even. That's all 6 members starting to look like the end of Havana again. You've got barely enough time and a brand new composition.
And they could have just run this from the start. They could have just run this when they lost the early cap, but they wanted to force their composition to work in a situation where it probably never was going to. Sonaro dives in to absolutely no effect. Lee Chang-soon gets free fire onto Cloud, who is no one able to protect him, and I don't think Green Leaves really have a hope in hell in this fight, unfortunately. Pocky D-Mech, 50 finished off, and they're barely getting on to the point here. They seem like they utterly lack a game plan.
3 kills for Lee Chang-soon in this fight, and now the timer goes down 100-0. Of the rounds that we did see on Ilios, none of those were 100-0 points. And for Cyclone Coupling, looking very comfortable starting out in the poll. Is this now the beginning of the end for Green Leaves? And what was a very strong beginning for them now to be a very sad end.
Well, Green Leaves. Here we go. This is what I want them to see. If you're going to keep Pocky in over 10, play what worked when you had Pocky and 50 in together. This is that team comp. If they can pull it back here, then this whole thing should still be recoverable.
On the other side as well, Cyclone Coupling going to be matching Cloud onto the Ana. This is where, like you mentioned, this particular matchup is where Green Leaves got a lot done. Becky starting on the Moira instead. He's probably assuming that there will be more pharmacy, there will be more DPS coming on the other end. Unfortunately now gets that read wrong.
So, Green Leaves able to get the quick
they're swapping.
move. Yeah, Cyclone Coupling, they don't want to take this one. They go back to spawn.
Becky
Becky
stays?
does make this change as well, so...
So they do want to
On
match.
to an Omnic.
They do really want to match in terms of the Ryan to start with. The Zen is going to be better in this matchup point. We'll be unlocking soon.
I like the robot for Becky as well. Oh my god, Becky, look at that bot. Sonairo takes some early pressure, but comes back alive, just barely, and they have capped the points.
A lot of the health bars getting low for the Cyclone Coupling side. Point does go over to Green Leaves early. Zerfi hacked out too.
Nearly got the sleep up on the high ground there. Stun on MG is nice, 1 for 1. You'd rather have kept 50 alive, though, I imagine, but they lose Hashimi too. Cloud is to commit an Ana boost. They're just going to pressure on in, and it
Big
does
damage.
end up working. So Nairo is able to get that one. Nice play from Cloud, the confidence to press the go button there.
And that nearly did not work. By the way, Fallen uses the shadow. I don't know who he connected on.
Nairo charged out of it, so certainly not him, but incredibly, TOT is just kiting him back. Clutch barrier, though, from 50. It doesn't buy Sonairo much more time, and actually, they do still get the point here, Cyclone Coupling. That's real heartbreaking for Green Leaves. Because Sonairo charged out, he couldn't block the shadow from Fallen.
And it started to look like a good play because here's what happened first. Green Leaves lost 2 members while Sonairo was low. They were waiting to heal him up. They popped the nano into him. He gets 2 kills of his own, but then you're right, the charge, then putting him into safety. The rest of Green Leaves definitely not safe. 27 to 27. At least it's an even game.
I mean, at least, right? EMP out from Pocky first, and it's a
Big from
decent one.
TOT.
TOT's is also pretty decent, and it's Sonairo down first. So, Cyclone Coupling getting the better end of that deal. Green Leaves in full retreat, just going to try and wait for Sonairo come back for another round.
It's a 1-0 trade there, and Green Leaves, being the team that does not control this point, are able to just reset themselves. You even have a case now where Becky finally has Transcendence. Cyclone Coupling weathered the worst of the EMP without even having to use Transcendence.
Hashimi's already low as they all get caught in a grab. I mean, this rotation was a disaster from Green Leaves, and this is the same thing we were seeing on Sanctum, unfortunately. Green Leaves, when they're having to rotate before getting to the fight, are losing members and taking way too much damage.
This time, though, what you do see is Cyclone Coupling, because they're slightly ahead, we're no longer into that even territory. He had a Graviton Surge super early. MG pops that one down, collects the kills. Green Leaves just have to back out 75%. At least they are on a composition they want to be playing. However, they got to get these ultimates up.
This is now starting to get a bit dire for Green Leaves. Nearly on the grab. 50 hacked. They need to keep him alive. They do not. And this is now committing. 90%. They are committing, but they're all caught in a shatter now. Transcendence there from Becky, the 10.
Oh, wow.
What a catch, Donny. And Green Leaves just getting absolutely run over. And
they can't run.
97, 98, 99, and done. Redemption begins for Cyclone Coupling.
Finally on the board now. It's taken them 4 weeks to get a victory, and 1-3. Finally the match score for them. They've escaped the 0-win territory. Just Jupiter down there sat and alone. And Cyclone Coupling, it's been a long time coming with changes to their roster. 3 new members even coming in this week. A lot of questions surrounding how that's going to work. Are these guys going to be any good? How are the team synergy is going to work? You have now lost your 3 original Cyclone Coupling members. We don't know where they're at anymore, but turns out they've beaten Green Leaves. They got past the first hurdle. Tough schedule early on that's finally now seeing a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel.
And this has been a really rough week in the end now for both the Japanese squads, actually, who have gone into matches that turned out to be very winnable for them as it progressed, and then still, unfortunately, weren't able to pull it out. And unfortunately, on the whole, it feels like in the course of this series, Green Leaves' execution was just inconsistent compared to Cyclone Coupling. It might have been a bit rusty at the start for Cyclone Coupling, but once they shifted into gear, it was just really solid. And as soon as Green Leaves slipped on their execution, Cyclone Coupling just tore them apart.
And you also have a case where, in comparison to both Japanese teams, interesting that's brought up because it's different in a way because Jupiter were not expected to win. However, it started to look like they could. And as a winless team, that's very important. On the other hand, Greenleaves were expected to win, and then coming up with a loss, that feels bad in a completely different way because now momentum has shifted for them. They've got another loss on the board. Certainly not going to be relegated just yet. They're still fairly safe in that regard. But when you're really looking for high seeds for playoffs, Greenleaves now are struggling more where they otherwise wouldn't have been. However, the cost for that ends up being paid, and Cyclone Coupling is the recipient, and they're going to be able to, be feeling a lot more confident about trying to escape relegation.
And on the whole, this, again, it just further opens up the questions over the current standings, right? Because Cyclone Coupling lose to Nova, Greenleaves beat Nova, Greenleaves lose to Cyclone Coupling. Was that a different kind of Greenleaves? Was it a different kind of Nova? Certainly this was a different Cyclone Coupling. Is that the difference maker? This looks like a squad that could save this team from relegations.
Speaking of different, it is going to be another match coming up soon with Global Esports coming in versus Talon Esports as our last match of the week, and potentially could be one of our best ones as well, so you don't want to miss that one. We'll be right back after this break.